Welcome to another episode of the Dope Designer Club. That clap was a little painful. I just fell and hurt my hand. Today, we're talking about chairs. Recently, I wrote an article about chairs, and I decided that I could also talk about it a little bit here on the Dope Designer Club. My mother has pointed out to me a couple of years ago that I have a chair fetish. And I think I do. I have a lot of chairs in my house, probably more chairs than I will ever use. And they're scattered everywhere. They're not necessarily even arranged in sometimes in any meaningful way. I store a lot of chairs. I love them. I collect them. If there's a chair that's not used on a project, I'll volunteer to take it home. So I am a bit of a hoarder, and that's definitely reflected in this chair collection. But let's go back to why I like chairs. I like chairs. First of all, I'm an architect. I'm a designer. Chairs really encompass a lot of the things that we deal in architecture. As architects, we design both for beauty and function, and a chair does the same thing. It's an object that is, in a way, a sculpture, but also serves a very important purpose, and that's sitting. We sit a lot during the day. I'm sure if you're watching this, you're probably sitting in some kind of chair. Our butts appreciate it if it's comfortable, but also our posture. A chair is also something that, if you want to have an important conversation, you'll pull up a chair, you'll sit down. Like I said, we sit in chairs most of our working days. We sit in chairs around a dining table while we eat dinner with our family. We'll sit in a chair in a very important, maybe life deciding moment in our life for a very important project interview or a job interview. People sit in chairs in the White House making very important decisions on a daily basis. But more than that, I think that a chair is almost an extension of our bodies. The way I think about a chair is, like we have clothing. That's like kind of layer one. It's still in our personal space. A chair kind of does the same thing. It's an extension of our body and helps us, sit in a certain way and occupy space in a certain way. Furniture in general is like kind of that scale, that's a little bit bigger than our body, but a little bit less than a room. So it kind of like furniture sits, if you will, in this intermediate space and an intermediate scale. And I'm fascinated by that. I think also chairs, what's important about chairs is their materiality. A lot of office chairs are made out of metal and plastic and fabric, and that's something we constantly touch and interact with. And I think that's an aspect of furniture or chairs that's also kind of exciting and inspirational and can be very creative. But to kind of jump into the chair discussion a little more, I wanted to also it's a bit of a self-deprecating humor. Architects were such nerds, right? And we also collect chairs, not in their regular scale, but also as miniatures. And I wanted to point that out. I have a little mini chair collection that I inherited from my dear friend and mentor, Bert, back from Hawaii. He mailed this collection to me a couple of years ago, like the entire collection. And at the time, my daughter had so much fun opening these little boxes and playing with the chairs because they are toy-sized. And so a lot of architects will collect them and display them and admire them. And so we'll go through a few chairs that I have here behind me, and we'll discuss them. So the first chair that I want to show you is this little tiny Barcelona chair. And this was designed by Mies van der Rohe. Less is more. So that's a very iconic chair. Then we have this chair. This is a ball chair. And it was designed by Eero Saarinen. And it just has that like 60s mod vibe that's very specific. And I think it's kind of cool because you could really kind of imagine yourself like huddling in this little ball and reading a book. So I think that's a kind of an interesting concept. Then we have the Panton chair, which is this like swoosh design, which is very sculptural. And this is in a way, how can I put it? It's a molded plastic chair. So, it kind of has a very specific look. But I've seen this chair incorporated into very like timeless, classical interiors, which is also fun. So I actually really like this chair. I've seen it in a clear acrylic. I've seen it in many bright colors. And so what it also kind of tells us is that even an extreme design like this is just so iconic that it fits anywhere. So I thought that's kind of cool about this one. Other than these, let's see. This is the Boca chair. This was actually originally referenced in a painting by Salvador Dali. So this is kind of cool and weird. Let's see. A lot of architects design chairs as well. So this one is by Le Corbusier, and this is a very, again, classic and iconic chair. And more recently, it's actually been credited to a woman designer, actually. But it's known as Corbusier's design. So I had to write this down. This is a chair by Rietveld, and this is a red and blue chair. This was originally kind of designed in the Dichstil movement, and it was designed in just white, which I think is also beautiful. But I am also kind of fascinated by this particular chair and its history, because to me, this is so modern. And yet it was designed such a long time ago. And the designers that, thought about these shapes, really had to think outside the box to come up with chairs like this that still kind of capture our imagination today. So I think this is wonderful. And it has these like Mondrian-like colors, the red, the blue, the yellow. So I think this is, and even the lines are just like a painting. So those are some minis that I have, which are really fun. And I definitely kind of recommend them for people who love form and sculpture and art and design. And they come as wonderful gifts too. Like, I don't mind receiving that as a gift. The other thing I wanted to talk about, other than these minis, also with the minis, I had to give a shout out to Bert. He'll love this. He's like one of the 5 people that watches the show. But I wanted to also talk about what are the like top chairs. What are the top chairs like in my world? What are the top iconic chairs that designers or people can recognize? And obviously, some of the chairs that I admire will kind of match that, like the Eames lounge chair. Obviously, I love Ray and Charles Eames. They're such famous, designers here from LA. Sort of the few designers that really like started modernism and then expanded it to the common psyche. And I think they're such important designers, but also they've created chairs that are still relevant today, that most people recognize, people that aren't even involved in design or architecture. Everybody kind of knows what an Eames chair is, what the lounge chair is. And A lot of people have this chair. People who don't know about design know that if you buy this chair, you know, it'll speak to anybody visiting your home that you know something about design. So I think that in some ways that chair is a little bit overused, but I still love it. It has a molded wood back and a soft interior, which I think is just so wonderful. Even as a concept today, I think that's just so beautiful. I like it in white. Again, some of these chairs that are like maybe overused, one way to make them fresh is to maybe choose them in a different material. So I think that's kind of fun. I recently saw a vintage one that was done in red leather, which was kind of fun. I also admire Konstantin Grcic. He's kind of from my neck of the woods, a really famous designer, and his whole Magis collection. I think it's such a futuristic, unusual design. I think structurally the chair is beautiful. I have actually some stools. There's a cantilever there. It's like triangulated. It's like nothing you've ever seen before. And it actually is a very stable chair, even though it has only 3 legs. I'll definitely post some links and more resources so you could also learn more about these chairs. Then I'm back to the Eameses. Like, I love their wire collection, and it's just such a wonderful, whimsical collection of chairs and ideas and themes, and there's a bathing suit and a bikini sort of fabric play there on gender, and I think that those chairs are also some of my favorites. In terms of the I'd say task chairs, which are the chairs that you sit in at a desk. I think there was like definitely a renewed interest in task chairs when we all went back home during COVID and had to work from home and sit in these chairs. And I think demand for comfortable office chairs that can be used in your house definitely surged during this time. During this time, I gifted my brother a Cosm chair, which is a new design chair, which I love. And this chair comes in really cool colors. I think I got him the red one, even though he doesn't like red, but I think red is such a powerful, strong color. And another chair that I like to sit in is the Setu chair. And this chair is a wonderful light chair, which is why I love it. I think a lot of times you think that these chairs need to be like contraptions or like dental like things. But they don't. I think sometimes if a chair is just comfortable and light and easily maneuvered without a lot of sort of gadgets on it, I appreciate that. So those are some of my kind of top chairs. I do also want to mention one last chair, and that is the spun chair. I do a lot of work with schools, and I help procure furniture. And this chair, even though it's such a sculptural chair, is something I specify on a lot of our projects. And the reason for that is just that it's such a fun chair. You spin in it, you lose kind of your balance. And I've also seen it recently at the LinkedIn campus up in Carpinteria. I filmed another course there, and they had some really nice like outdoor areas, and they had that chair. And I sat in that chair, and I had that experience again. Unfortunately, there was a little puddle in the chair, and my butt ended up being wet from it. But overall, the chair is just so cool and whimsical. And I think it's an example of how a chair or an object like this can really bring fun and wonder and excitement to a space. And it's beautiful as well. Lastly, actually not quite lastly, but I do want to mention this really cool book that, since it's kind of like pre-Christmas, like is another cool gift idea. This book, and it's a mini book. It's by Taschen, of course. It's called 1,000 Chairs, and this book will give you really, in chronological order, a very short and meaningful review of a lot of iconic chairs. We've obviously just talked about the Panton chair, but anything from Macintosh and Frank Lloyd Wright all the way to Zaha Hadid and Philip Stark, who's another cool, famous designer. And so it's such a great reference for anybody who's interested in chairs or obsessed with chairs. I highly recommend this. And then lastly, I want to say that so we've talked about, why chairs are important to architects. We talked about some iconic chairs here and there. But the way we also procure furniture, specify chairs, but the way we design spaces, I think should also be informed by furniture. Usually furniture or chairs, it's the last thing. People think about this like, we'll just design a building or a space or a room, and then we'll just go and buy some furniture. We don't need to think about it. But I think we should think about it like way before, because, say in school design, classroom size and configuration will also depend on the number of students and what kind of furniture and what kind of activities go on in this space. And furniture really tells that story. A chair tells that story. 2 chairs tell a different story. 5 chairs tell, again, another story. So I think it's important to think about furniture, how it belongs in this bigger space and like what it really does. So I would invite you to think about that and think about the chair you sit in now, and is it the best chair ever or not? And maybe if it's not, could there be a better chair that you could sit in right now? And I also invite you to be inspired by these wonderful sculptures that we use as furniture. So those are my last thoughts in this episode on chairs. Thank you.